Hey yo, what's good, people? It's your boy reporting straight from an office space in the 90s. And man, listen, IBM in the 90s was like that kid in class who swore he was the future but kept turning in group projects that didn't work. Big Blue had the money, the brains, the engineers who probably sleep with soldering irons still dropped some of the funniest tech flops the decade ever saw. Today we're looking at the IBM gadgets from the 90s that got left behind like a Sega Saturn at Funko Land. You know the vibe. Facts, jokes, nostalgia, all that. Hit the like button, subscribe, and let's talk about how IBM tried to reinvent the future and fumbled the bag every damn time.
Okay, remember on Star Trek when they carried those little handheld devices that could talk to spaceships and everything? Well, this communicator doesn't do that, but it comes very, very close.
The IBM Simon really was the first smartphone, not just in vibe, but in hardware. It ran a custom OS built on Data Light ROM DOS and had a 4.5-inch monochrome LCD touchscreen and came with built-in apps, email, fax, notepad, calendar, address book, all of that. Under the hood, it used a 16 MHz NEC V30 CPU, basically a warmed-over 8086 processor, pushing early PDA software that looked like Windows 3.1's little cousin. Storage was tiny. 1 MB RAM plus 1 MB storage, expandable only through a PCM CIA card. The reason it flopped was simple. The tech couldn't match the ambition. The battery died after about an hour. Charging took forever. The network speed was a 1994 level slow, and the unit weighed over a pound. The joint cost about a band and some change, which was more than most laptops at the time. It sold under 50,000 units, but it introduced features we now consider mandatory. Touchscreen dialing, mobile email, portable apps, and handwritten notes. Revolutionary idea, but just stuck with 80s technology. IBM's wristwatch PC was an early shot at a smartwatch, way before anybody wanted a computer on their wrist. It ran on a 27 MHz ARM chip and had 80 megabytes of RAM and used a tiny 640 by 480 micro display. You practically needed bionic eyes to read. It could run simple apps, show alerts, and sync with your PC through infrared like some Mission Impossible gadget. The catch? Battery life was minutes, not hours. The screen was too small to use, the body was bulky, and the whole thing felt like you were wearing a pager glued to a Game Boy screen. It never made it to stores. It stayed a lab demo that proved the idea, not the execution. Cool concept, zero real-world chance in the 90s. IBM basically invented the smartwatch 10 years early and didn't get a dime from it.
The trouble with most notebooks this size is that most hands are this size. That's why we created the 4.5-pound ThinkPad 701.
The 701C's claim to fame was the butterfly keyboard, a slick, sliding mechanism that expanded when you opened the lid. It looked futuristic and honestly still feels ahead of its time. Tech-wise, it was solid for 95. You had a 486 DX4 processor, up to 24 megabytes of RAM, and a clean 10.4-inch TFT display. But the whole design depended on small screens. As soon as laptop displays jumped to 12 to 13 inches, the butterfly concept became pointless. Why engineer a folding keyboard when the bigger chassis gave you full size by default? Add the high price and the fear of maintaining a moving keyboard, and companies backed off. It sold for a moment, then disappeared quick. Iconic design, short-lived run, cool, but still a 90s flop. EduQuest was IBM trying to bully their way into classrooms with premium school computers that moved the regular PCs in a private school uniform. Same early 486 processors, 2 to 8 megabyte RAM, and basic VGA graphics. Nothing groundbreaking, but IBM priced them like schools were sitting on NBA contracts. They locked the systems down with proprietary software, weird teaching suites, and maintenance plans nobody asked for. Teachers looked at this like, ma'am, we just need something that turns on when the bell rings. Meanwhile, cheaper PC clones and the early Macs were about to be doing the same job for half the price and none of the drama. Districts weren't paying the IBM tax. Students weren't impressed, and the line disappeared quietly, like it snuck out the back door with a hall pass. A whole education division gone before kids even learned how to type.
It says here, The internet is the future of business.
IBM network stations were IBM trying to push the future of office computers way before the world was ready. These little thin clients didn't have hard drives, barely had 8 to 32 megabytes of RAM, and depended completely on a server to boot up and run apps. On paper, it sounded efficient, but in 90s reality, it was like trying to stream Netflix on a beeper. They used PowerPC or MIPS chips, ran IBM's network station manager, and needed fast, reliable networks, which most offices absolutely did not have. One server hiccup and the whole department was frozen, staring at screens like they were loading a CD-ROM demo. Employees hated them, IT hated maintaining them, and companies quietly went right back to the regular desktops. It wasn't the worst idea, it just pulled up to the party 10 years too early, man. The IBM WorkPad was IBM's attempt to jump into the PDA game. But all they really did was slap a suit and a tie on a Palm Pilot and hope nobody noticed. It ran Palm OS, had the same 160 by 160 monochrome display, the same Motorola Dragon Ball processor, the same stylus, literally the same everything. IBM just painted it black, added a logo, and said, "This one's for business." Specs were fine for the time. 2 to 8 megabytes of memory, quick syncing through the cradle, simple apps, and solid battery life. The problem was that Palm already owned the market, and IBM wasn't bringing anything new. They weren't faster, cheaper, or cooler. It was basically the tech equivalent of showing up late to class and turning in somebody else's homework with your name on it. Corporate buyers weren't fooled. Regular consumers didn't care, and the WorkPad faded out fast. Clean, quiet, uneventful flop. The PDA world kept spinning, and IBM just stepped off the ride. The IBM PC radio was one of those ideas that sounded cool until you actually tried it. IBM basically turned the radio waves into a wireless network before Wi-Fi existed by using a special card that plugged into your laptop. The plan was simple: beam data through FM subcarrier signals so you could get news, stock updates, email alerts, all that without needing an internet connection. On the tech side, it used Motorola modem chips, a PCMCIA radio card, and a broadcast network IBM partnered with across major cities. But here's the problem. It could only receive data, not send anything back. One-way traffic. Imagine getting emails but never being able to reply. That's not wireless, that's punishment. Data speeds were crawling, less than 10 kbps, and you were stuck in specific coverage zones. Step outside the signal area and the whole thing turned into a shiny paperweight. By the time IBM realized it wasn't catching on, real mobile data and early Wi-Fi were already showing up like, move, man. Cool experiment, terrible product. The streets weren't asking for FM radio emails, bruh, period. IBM in the 90s was wild, man. They had the brains, the budget, the engineers who probably typed in binary for fun, but half these gadgets felt like they were testing future on dial-up. Every idea was ahead of its time, but the hardware, the decade, or just the entire planet wasn't ready to keep up. And instead of changing the game, most of these joints ended up in tech purgatory, sitting right next to those AOL discs we all pretended we didn't use. But that's why these stories hit. They're the blueprint moments, the attempts, the risks, the stuff that walked so the gadgets we use today could actually run without catching fire. If you still rock with these deep dives into the 90s tech chaos, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment, man. We dig into the history, we keep it fun, and we gonna keep it real every time. So until next vid, stay powered up and never log off. We out, y'all.